My name was Khalid. I was a Quran teacher, molded by the weight of expectation, the son of a respected imam. I spent my days reciting the words that shaped my existence, clothed in tradition and duty, even as a storm brewed within. I thought I was walking the righteous path until the moment I found myself suspended between this life and the next. And in that unthinkable silence, everything changed. That day, I lost more than just the breath in my lungs. I lost the very foundation of my faith. The burden of unanswered questions pushed me to the edge during my prayers. Was I truly connected to something divine, or just trapped in the chains of belief handed down to me? The emptiness was suffocating. I began to glimpse a profound truth hidden beneath the layers of dogma and darkness, a truth that would upend everything I thought I knew. Then came the accident, a flash of metal and chaos, and suddenly I was pulled into a void. It was there, amid the shadows and silence, that I encountered a radiant figure, Jesus. He called my name, breaking through the veil of my confusion with a light I had never known. In that sacred moment, I witnessed a spiritual battle, a war of souls that no one spoke of, and the weight of the lies weaved into the very fabric of our beliefs struck me like a lightning bolt. I returned from that encounter shattered, yet inexplicably alive. But the world I knew now loomed heavy with hostility. My family deemed me a heretic for believing in Jesus, and I was left grappling with guilt and isolation. The fear of losing my roots clawed at me, yet the undeniable peace I felt in seeking a new truth compelled me forward. This journey was no longer for me alone. It was a calling to share the revelation that shattered my chains. So now, here I stand, ready to unveil the harsh realities hidden behind closed doors. This is more than a testimony. It's a clarion call to those suffocating in lies and searching for a glimmer of hope in their darkness. Before we delve deeper into this journey, pause for a moment. Comment below. Where are you watching from? And what time is it right now? I want to connect, to know where my story is reaching. And if you feel a stirring in your heart, a whisper urging you to explore further, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Because in the depths of your struggle, there lies an incredible transformation waiting to unfold. In a conservative neighborhood in North Africa, where the air is thick with the weight of awe, tradition and the call to prayer rings through the streets, I lived a life molded by the tenets of Islam. My upbringing had instilled a sense of duty and devotion, yet beneath that surface lay a growing disquiet. Society pressed down on me to conform, to obey, creating an atmosphere where spiritual silence and emotional repression thrived. Each day felt like a repeat of the last. Prayers recited, teachings followed, yet my heart whispered, urging me to question the path I was on. It was during one of my quiet evening prayers, as I recited the Quran, that everything changed. In the middle of my devotion, a calm, powerful presence interrupted me. Jesus. The world around me melted away as I felt an enveloping warmth, a light so bright it obscured everything else. "I am here," he said simply. But the impact of those words reverberated deep within me, shaking the foundations of my beliefs. This was not merely a spiritual encounter. It was a revelation that pierced through my understanding of faith, illuminating truths I had previously ignored. In that moment, Jesus revealed the hidden agendas woven throughout society. I saw how the elite manipulate religious beliefs to control and suppress the masses, perpetuating a cycle of deception that kept people in the dark. The image of divisive politics played out before me, leaders leveraging fear to maintain their power, using religion to foster conflict and division among people who longed for unity and love. Each vision felt like a call to action, a plea for awakening that stirred a fire I didn't know existed within me. It was a glimpse into the spiritual war that raged in the hearts of so many, an urgent message that transcended the confines of my past. As I stood there, suspended between two realities, My mind raced. The teachings I had held dear clashed violently with the love and truth that Jesus presented. Doubt flooded in, battling against the certainty I now felt. How could I accept this revelation while knowing the potential for rejection awaited me back home? The fear of losing everything I held dear, the approval of my family, the respect of my community, hung heavily on my heart. Yet with each passing moment of this encounter, I knew I couldn't turn away from the truth that had been revealed to me. When I finally returned to my senses, the world felt both familiar and alien. I was back in my room, yet I was not the same person. The urgency to confront the deception surrounding my life grew stronger. I felt compelled to share this truth, to speak out about the manipulations that had crafted my understanding of faith and spirituality. My resolve to break the silence was more profound than the fear I carried. I understood now that the deception feeding the spiritual war was meant to keep us in chains, separated from the truth that liberated us. My new journey had just begun, and with each step, the echoes of Jesus' revelation urged me forward into the light. I'm Khalid, a 32-year-old Quran teacher, and I've spent my life entwined in the fabric of my faith. The son of a respected imam, I've always carried the weight of tradition on my shoulders. My attire is traditional, flowing robes that signify my role, my purpose. Yet beneath that dignified exterior, a profound sadness lingers in my eyes, a silent testament to the emptiness that has crept into my soul. I diligently taught students the verses of the Quran, reciting words I had memorized since childhood. I thought that adherence to religious obedience would fill the void within me. Yet it only led to a growing sense of spiritual dissatisfaction that I could no longer ignore. In the quietness of my heart, I began to sense a disconnect between the teachings and the life I was experiencing. Despite the respect I garnered in my community, I felt increasingly disillusioned by how tradition sometimes overshadowed the essence of faith. Every prayer I offered seemed to echo back with a hollowness that unsettled me. Was this really the purpose of my devotion? There was a storm brewing inside, a tumultuous conflict that threatened to unravel the very foundation of my beliefs. In my desperate search for answers, I often found myself contemplating whether there was more to spirituality than what had been prescribed to me. Then came the day that changed everything. One fateful evening, as I recited the Quran alone in my room, I felt an unmistakable shift in the air. It was as if time stood still, and in that stillness, an overwhelming light filled the space around me. This light wasn't blinding, it was warm and inviting. Suddenly Jesus appeared before me, a presence so profound that it washed over me like a gentle tide. "Khalid," he said, and my heart raced, not with fear, but with a recognition that I couldn't explain. In that moment, the weight of my struggles began to dissolve as he reached out to me, offering a revelation that would alter my path forever. Jesus spoke of the hidden agendas that governed society, exposing how the elite maneuver to propagate deception and maintain control. He unveiled the layers of manipulation that clouded our understanding of truth, illustrating how political structures often incited division among people, leveraging faith to create conflict rather than connection. I could see the larger implications of a spiritual war in full force around the globe, a fight not just for supremacy, but for our very souls. Behind every act of aggression and fear, there were forces at play, shaping narratives to keep us shackled to ignorance. As his words resonated in my heart, I felt an awakening taking root within me. The realization that I had been part of a cycle, one that promoted separation rather than unity, stirred a deep resolve within me. I had spent too long reciting verses without understanding their essence. Now I saw how love and faith should transcend culture and tradition. I could no longer ignore the call to step into the truth that Jesus revealed. The urgency of this spiritual fight became clear as I recognized how many others are ensnared in the same deception, longing for the freedom and love I now understood. With a newfound sense of purpose, I knew my journey was just beginning, and I was ready to share the truths that could ignite awakening in others. As I sat down to perform my daily prayers, an unsettling feeling crept over me, an acute sense of disconnect that gnawed at my spirit. I was Khalid, a Quran teacher wrapped in the rich tapestry of Islamic tradition. Yet, in those quiet moments, a storm brewed inside me. The very words I recited felt sterile, hollow echoes within my heart. This ritual, which had once brought me peace, now left me grappling with existential questions that seemed forbidden. Is this what faith is supposed to feel like? I pondered, wrestling with doubts that I dared not voice. The disconnect deepened, as did the realization that my faith might be more about compliance than true connection with the divine. Night after night, disturbing dreams haunted my sleep, visions that felt too real to dismiss as mere figments of my imagination. I'd wake in a panic, my heart racing, disturbed by images of conflict and division. In these dreams, I saw people caught in the throes of chaos, families at odds over differing beliefs, neighbors turning against one another, all fueled by a relentless hunger for control, fostered by societal structures that claimed to uphold faith but instead stifled it. I began to suspect that there was more at play than mere faith. A hidden agenda lay beneath the surface, manipulating the very fabric of our lives. I couldn't shake the feeling that an unseen force sought to keep us tethered to a deception that left us powerless. During one of those restless nights, as I battled against the tide of uncertainty, I felt a presence envelop me, a warmth that cast aside my fears. It was during this moment of desperation when Jesus suddenly interrupted my thoughts. I felt his gentle yet powerful energy radiate through the darkness, filling the void that surrounded me. "Khalid, you are not alone," he said, his voice like a soothing balm against my troubled heart. In his presence, I felt an overwhelming rush of love and compassion, making all of the doubts that had consumed me seem insignificant. It was then that the revelations began to unfurl before me, illuminating the truths I had long sought. Jesus revealed to me the layers of manipulation that had enshrouded my understanding of religion. He gave me a glimpse into the spiritual war that raged within and around us, a battle not only for souls, but for the very essence of what faith should represent. He showed me how the elite often masked their intentions, turning spirituality into a weapon to divide and conquer. The chaos I had seen in my dreams was a reflection of this war, a strategy to maintain control by deepening our fears and perpetuating ignorance. I was shaken to my core. The foundations of my beliefs began to crack, replaced by a powerful truth. As I awoke from this revelation, I felt a calling that was both exhilarating and terrifying. I understood that my journey had taken on a new direction, one laden with responsibility. How could I remain silent when awareness of this hidden deception had been granted to me? My heart raced at the thought of sharing what I had learned, of awakening others from their slumber, yet the fear of rejection from my community lingered. Like a dark cloud, I could see the tightrope I had to walk, between the love I felt for my roots and the truth that compelled me forward. In this moment of clarity, I recognized that every soul affected by this deception needed a voice, and I was determined to be that voice, even as the enormity of the task ahead loomed dauntingly in front of me. It happened on what seemed like a typical afternoon. I was driving home, the sun casting long shadows on the road, when suddenly, everything shattered. An oncoming car veered into my lane, and before I could even register the danger, there was a deafening crash. Time stretched in that moment, and in the blink of an eye, I found myself spiraling into darkness. I had experienced a near-fatal car accident, and as my existence flickered away, I felt detached from my body, floating in an abyss that felt both alien and strangely familiar. In this void, there was no sound, no sensation, just an overwhelming stillness. As I drifted deeper into the darkness, a brilliant light pierced through, illuminating the vast nothingness around me. It was not blinding, rather, it was a warm, inviting glow that drew me in. Then, amidst that radiant brilliance, I saw him, Jesus, standing with an aura of love and authority. My heart raced as I felt a connection I had never experienced before. He called my name softly, and in that moment my fears and doubts began to unravel. I could barely grasp what was happening, but I sensed that this encounter would change everything. Jesus looked into my eyes, and with his gaze, he pierced through the layers of deception that had clouded my perception for far too long. In that sacred space, he unfolded the reality of the spiritual war that rages around us, revealing truths hidden by religious and social institutions. I saw visions of people manipulated by fear, divided by agendas that sought to maintain power and control. I felt the weight of the elite's deception, how they masked their intentions with religion, creating a barrier that kept people from experiencing the true essence of love. It was horrifying and enlightening all at once. The clarity cut through the darkness like a knife. As revelations washed over me, I began to understand the depth of the conflict within my own heart. I was caught in a struggle between my ingrained beliefs and the overwhelming love and truth that Jesus embodied. This wasn't just a personal transformation. It was an awakening to the larger frameworks of manipulation operating in society. The visions of wars and strife played out before me, illustrating how the lies we accept lead us to division and chaos. I realized that what I had witnessed and lived was just a microcosm of a far greater battle, one that sought to suppress humanity's potential for unity and understanding. Returning to consciousness felt surreal. I was back in my crumpled car, my body aching, but my mind was alive with urgency. I sat there, grappling with the gravity of the experience I had just endured. The once familiar streets felt different now. I was imbued with a newfound purpose. How could I ignore the call to share what I had learned? With each heartbeat, I felt the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. I was awakened to a truth that demanded to be spoken, a truth that could illuminate the shadows surrounding those still caught in the web of deception. I knew I had to rise against the spiritual war unfolding in our world, ready to embrace the mission before me, no matter the cost. When I returned to life, everything felt different. The light of day poured through my window, but it couldn't penetrate the darkness that had settled in my heart. After my encounter with Jesus during that life-altering moment, I was filled with a sense of peace that eluded me before. However, that peace was quickly overshadowed by the harsh reality of my situation. I had embraced a new faith, but in doing so, I became a pariah. My family branded me a heretic for believing in Jesus. The pain of their rejection cut deep, leaving me grappling with profound guilt and fear. As I walked through my home, memories flooded my mind. The laughter shared at family gatherings, the traditions that had woven together generations. I could still hear my father's voice reciting passages from the Quran, the pride he took in our faith. Now, as I stood in the very space that had once felt like a sanctuary, I felt isolated. It was as if I had crossed a threshold into an unknown world, leaving behind the comfort of familiarity for the tumultuous sea of my new beliefs. I was torn between the love for my family and the awakening I had experienced in the presence of Jesus. The internal conflict felt like a spiritual war, each battle fought within the confines of my own heart. The guilt was overwhelming. How could I have turned my back on everything I had known? How could I have forsaken the teachings that had shaped my life? I wrestled with these questions daily, feeling the weight of expectation from those I loved. They viewed my transformation as a betrayal, a sign of weakness, and I could see the shame reflected in their eyes. Yet, as the days passed, I found myself drawn closer to the truth Jesus had revealed to me. The manipulation by the elite, the hidden agenda they wielded to control faith and instill fear, these were realities I could no longer ignore. But acknowledging this truth came at a great cost. Each passing moment felt infused with tension. I couldn't share my thoughts with anyone in my life. I felt as if I was speaking a foreign language. The burden of keeping my newfound beliefs hidden was heavy. Yet, whenever I recalled the love and light I felt during my encounter with Jesus, the fear began to ebb away, replaced by a relentless desire to share this awakening with the world. I realized that my transformation wasn't just about abandoning one faith for another. It was about embracing truth over deception, about recognizing the spiritual war being waged around us and within us. Finally, I decided to seek out others who might understand. I looked for those who had similarly experienced an awakening, hoping to find solace and solidarity. Through online groups and clandestine meetings, I began to build connections with individuals who were also questioning their faith. Each conversation offered a mix of relief and sorrow. We shared our stories and our struggles, intertwining our journeys in a tapestry of shared awakening. With each meeting, my resolve solidified. I was ready to step into the light of truth, but I still grappled with the fear of what this path would ultimately demand of me, knowing that it could sever ties with my past forever. In the quiet moments after my encounter with Jesus, a growing curiosity compelled me to explore the teachings of the Bible. I would often find myself sneaking glances at passages, hiding my newfound quest from those around me. My world felt fractured. The disapproval of my family weighed heavily on my heart. The rich traditions of my upbringing, the sound of my father's voice reciting the Quran, and the pride I felt in my Islamic identity, all began to blur in the light of the revelations I had received. As I delved into these scriptures, I felt a profound mix of peace and anxiety. I was searching for truth, yet I was constantly haunted by the fear that pursuing this truth would cost me my connection to the family and culture I loved. With each page I flipped, I felt as though I was unearthing buried treasures, pieces of wisdom that resonated deeply within me. I watched countless testimonies of others who had experienced similar awakenings, their stories igniting a fire of hope in my heart. They spoke of a relationship with Jesus that transcended religious boundaries, an intimate connection that cultivated understanding and compassion. Listening to them, I felt less alone, like part of a larger movement pushing against the deceptions that kept many in darkness. These individuals became my silent guides, helping me navigate the profound spiritual war that raged within. However, even in the midst of this awakening, the specter of fear loomed large. What would my family think if they discovered my secret? The thought of being disowned haunted me. I knew that to embrace this new truth fully would mean separating myself from everything I had ever known. My father, my community, and the very essence of my identity would shatter if I were to embrace Jesus as more than just a prophet. The urgency of understanding this spiritual war intensified my internal conflict. I couldn't ignore the call toward awakening, but the price of that awakening felt unbearably high. As I continued to explore this newfound faith, I began to confront the hidden agenda that had shaped my previous beliefs. It became clearer to me how the elite used religion to control narratives, keeping people divided and distracted from the truth. I saw how authority figures manipulated fear and division, perpetuating cycles of suffering that made us feel powerless. I couldn't stand idly by while others remained caught in this web of deception. But every call to action felt marred by the potential loss of my family's love and approval. The struggle between my desire for truth and the fear of alienation became a constant battle. And still, with each passing day, I felt an undeniable pull toward the truth that Jesus embodied. The teachings I had respected were evolving before my very eyes, reshaping my understanding of faith into something vibrant and alive rather than stagnant and fearful. I began recognizing how essential it was to share what I had learned, not just for myself, but for those around me trapped in similar battles. Families torn apart by societal pressures, friends lost in division. These were not just my struggles, but the struggles of many who long for awakening in a world driven by hidden agendas. My heart raced with the realization that I had to step forward, to illuminate the path ahead, even while grappling with the profound implications that such a step would entail. As the reality of my encounter with Jesus settled deep within my heart, I felt an unmistakable calling, a mission that was both exhilarating and terrifying. In the moments following that divine communion, it became clear that I could no longer remain silent about the truths I had uncovered. I realized I had a responsibility to share what had been revealed to me, especially regarding the hidden agendas that lie beneath our societal structures. The spiritual war I witnessed was not just a personal struggle. It was a battle for the souls of many, trapped in deception and fear. The urgency surged within me, propelling me to action. I spent countless hours in reflection and prayer, seeking guidance on how to approach this monumental task. Each time I felt the weight of my new mission, the fear of backlash from my family, my community, and the very religious institutions I had revered haunted me. Yet each time I prayed, I felt Jesus encouraging me. He reminded me that to truly live in faith is to be willing to embrace truth, no matter how challenging the path may be. This revelation was not meant to be locked away. It demanded to be shared, despite the risks. The more I delved into the teachings of Jesus, the more clarity I found regarding the manipulations of the elite. I began to see how leaders leveraged fear to maintain control, distorting spirituality into a tool for division. They kept people separated from the truth and from one another, fueling a cycle of mistrust and resentment. It was heartbreaking to recognize how often faith is weaponized, twisted to serve the interests of those in power rather than the collective good. My heart ached for those who were still in the dark, unaware of the deception clouding their understanding of faith and spirituality. With every conversation I had with others on this journey, I felt the growing sense of community that was so desperately needed for this awakening. I sought out fellow believers who had also confronted these profound revelations. Together, we exchanged stories of struggle and resilience, sharing the burdens of doubt and fear that had weighed us down for so long. These gatherings became a lifeline, strengthening our resolve to face the spiritual war that lay before us. I began to understand that my awakening was not just for me, but for the many who yearned for hope and truth. As I prepared to step out into this new light, I found myself propelled by a fierce determination to break the silence surrounding these vital truths. I couldn't allow fear to dictate my actions any longer. The message of Jesus and the love he represented was vital for our shared humanity. With every ounce of courage, I vowed to illuminate the paths of those still in bondage to deception, knowing that the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. The awakening had begun, and with it came the promise of a brighter, unchained future, a journey I was ready to embrace, regardless of the potential costs. In the wake of my transformative encounter with Jesus, a decision loomed large over me, a decision that would alter the course of my life forever. I knew that staying in my familiar surroundings would mean continuing to live a double life, torn between my old beliefs and the profound truth I had encountered. In the stillness of my thoughts, I realized the cost of remaining silent and compliant was too high. The fear of rejection was overshadowed by the urgency to break free from the chains of deception that had bound my spirit for so long. The spiritual war I found myself in demanded courage, and I was ready to embrace my awakening fully. Leaving my home was both liberating and heart-wrenching. I packed my essentials in the dead of night, knowing that each item represented a piece of my old life and the love I had for my family. The thought of stepping into the unknown filled me with trepidation, yet I felt an overwhelming peace enveloping me, a reassurance that I was moving toward something far greater than myself. Each step away from my past felt like shedding layers of conformity that had stifled my spirit. I adopted a new identity, not just in name, but in purpose. I would no longer be defined by the expectations of others, but rather by my commitment to the truth I had been shown. With each passing day, the challenges of this new life began to manifest. I faced loneliness and doubt, the painful pangs of missing my family gnawing at my heart. The road was fraught with obstacles. I had to learn to navigate this unfamiliar territory while also grappling with the implications of my choice. In those moments of struggle, I often turned to Jesus in prayer, seeking guidance and strength. His presence felt more real than ever, as if he walked alongside me, offering solace whenever despair threatened to engulf me. I buried my fears in heartfelt conversations with him, understanding that the journey toward spiritual freedom wasn't just about breaking away, but also about helping others find their way. As I settled into this new chapter, I felt a growing urge to reach out to others who might be lost, those who, like me, were caught in the web of deception woven by the elite. I began a clandestine ministry, organizing small gatherings where people could share their experiences and explore the truths they had been denied. The revelation of how religion had often been misused to uphold power became our rallying cry. I could see the awakening stirring in their eyes, the realization that they too could break free from the confines of societal expectations and rediscover their connection to the divine. Each meeting filled me with hope, affirming my belief that we were not alone in our desire for liberation. However, the risks loomed over us like a shadow. With every gathering, we faced the possibility of being discovered, the threat of rejection, and even hostility from those who felt threatened by our beliefs. I knew that the elite would not remain silent while we challenged their hidden agendas, while we sought to expose the deception that kept so many shackled. But in those moments of fear, I felt a heartening sense of purpose. I understood that this spiritual war was worth fighting, not only for ourselves, but for everyone trapped in the darkness, yearning for the light of truth. As I stood before my new community, I felt the weight of my mission solidifying. We were warriors in this fight for truth, ready to awaken the world, one soul at a time. Now that you've journeyed with me through the shadows of doubt and the light of revelation, I must ask you something profound. Have you ever felt that fleeting moment when the world around you falls away, revealing a deeper truth? A truth that transcends the confines of tradition, something that whispers of a divine purpose woven into the very fabric of our existence. Because it is within those fleeting moments that we can catch echoes of a spiritual battle played out within every heart. I stood on the precipice of my former life, torn between the love for my family and the undeniable peace gifted to me in the presence of Jesus. I realized that I did not just leave one belief system. I was being called to awaken, to break free from the chains of deception that suffocated my spirit. The urgency to share this experience is not merely a personal need. It resonates in the hearts of so many who silently yearn for truth. We are all part of a larger tapestry, a fight for the freedom of soul and spirit that transcends the visible world. So now, I implore you, share your thoughts with me. Have you ever encountered a moment of clarity that shook the very foundation of your beliefs? Perhaps a dream or a whisper that stirred something deep within you. Let's create a space for dialogue below. I want to hear your stories. I read every comment, and together we can forge a community of awakening as we navigate the illusions that bind us. If this testimony has ignited something within you, make sure to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and hit the notification bell. Your engagement is crucial. It allows us to journey deeper into the revelations waiting for us and exposes more truths hidden beneath the surface of our reality. We need to unite in understanding, for the truth has the power to set us free. In the next video, we'll explore another testimony, that of someone who faced the pressures of conformity yet emerged victorious in their fight for spiritual truth. You won't want to miss it. Until then, I'm Khalid, and I want you to remember, the journey toward truth may be challenging, but it is the only path that leads to true freedom. Keep seeking, keep questioning, and never lose sight of the light that calls you forward.